You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
Hey everyone, welcome on into Toronto Sports Rush, and we are so glad to have some Toronto sports royalty. None other than Renee Paquette from AEW, and I'm Julie Stewart-Binks, by the way. I guess I should introduce myself as well. Renee and I go way back to Toronto days through many various different odds and ends, and it's so great to have you here on remotely once again for like the third time in 5 years, but it's always a treat to have you. So how are you doing?
We keep thinking we're going to be like past doing the remote stuff, but then we found out that as much as everyone hates it, it is still actually easier to make this happen. Yeah. So we'll roll with it. But yeah, so good to see you. We go way back. You are continually crushing it. You really are an inspiration. Do you understand this?
What, Renee?
When I see all the things that you're doing and how much you hustle and how much you just like make shit happen, it is the most baller move. It's very incredible. So
that's wow. Gosh, thank you so much. It's like so kind and so surprising.
No, but it's true. And I feel like I want to make sure that you get the pat on the back that you deserve. And it's very impressive. So
I appreciate that. I mean, thank you so much. That means a lot. And I think that you acknowledging that and saying that to other people, like acknowledging what you think is good in other people is very important. So I appreciate you saying that. And I think we need to do that more with everyone, right? Like, I think that's like the biggest thing now is everyone saying like, hey, if I think like this person's doing a good job or they ask a good question on TV, I'm like going to text them right then to let them know, or else like, they'll never know.
100%. Right? Because at the end of the day, it's like we're all looking for like some kind of validation or recognition. And there's not always the person in your corner patting your head and scratching your ears and saying like, hey, you've done a good job today. And like we all ultimately want that. So being able to like acknowledge that to our peers, to our friends, to our family, to whoever, I think it is so important to go, I see you, you're doing your good shit. Hell yeah.
I love it.
I'm a big advocate for
Thank you, Renee. That was a very nice way to start off this. So, for those of you who don't know, Renee.
Oh, okay. I thought hijack your podcast.
No, go
that
right
wasn't
ahead.
The bomb. That was nice.
This is your time to shine, honey. Let's go.
All right, the bone I have to pick with you is that you look great and you've gotten so shredded. And I recently just jumped back on the Bodies by JoJo bandwagon because of you, because you had your like 50% off, blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. And I am sore in like all of the right places. And I'm very happy about it. But like, damn. So back onto like the 100 grams of protein a day and all this, the water we've got to take, all of these things. It is grinding my gears. But I'm doing it and I'm feeling better for it. But this was all sort of set in motion from like an Instagram story that you had that I was like, you know what? Give me that. So
wow. Well, first of all, thank you, because I don't get paid for any of that. So that really meant a lot right there. So that I can post this and say, hey, Body by JoJo. Look, we're talking about this on Toronto Sports Rush. By the way, Body by JoJo is in Ontario, which is near Toronto. So it's Toronto content. But Renee, honestly, it's just about sticking with it. I mean, I was the beginning of doing like that, the workout regime. By the way, it was easier because it was a pandemic and like there was my degeneracy was limited to just my apartment. So that helped a lot. And then it's just like water and like eating vegetables and all the boring stuff. But like if you have like 5 things that you kind of like hit every day and then you work out like 2 to 3 weeks, you start seeing changes. A little bit longer, everyone else starts seeing changes. And then it's angles when you're doing videos, right? Yeah, well, you gotta have the light hit you in the right way to show.
I haven't figured that out yet because I'll set up my camera and it's just like a lot of ass or like a roll, and I'm like, oh my god, scrap it.
Oh, don't worry. I have a lot of that as well. Do you think I'm going to post that? Like sometimes I post the like ones that are silly or like when I drop a weight on the floor and my the people below me obviously just heard that, but I'm not going to post the ones where I look egregiously bad. Like that would just be like mean to me, I'd say. So just remember that, everyone, kiddies, on Instagram. It's not real, but health is real. And I appreciate that. Oh my God, Body by JoJo. I can't believe it. She is like literally my, like a theme of my life right now. I've never even met her before. And I've seen her every day for the last 5 years.
I feel like since I've moved to Cincinnati, so I had a really great trainer when I lived in Las Vegas, and I loved her and I loved doing it. But I feel like since I've moved to Vegas, I just haven't found like the thing that clicks. But I feel like doing her workouts are similar to what I was doing before. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's getting all the like, like chick workouts, it's like very targeted to female bodies. And I
agree. So wait, you said moved to Vegas? I thought you were in Cincinnati.
No, I'm saying when I lived in Vegas, I had a great trainer, but I do live in Cincinnati. Yes.
Right. Sorry. Body by JoJo didn't help me with my brain. That's the one thing that I'm still working on right now. So, okay, okay. So you're big in the wrestling world, which don't really know like a whole lot about, but I think it's fascinating how people are obsessed with it. And from like, I guess when you got into it, and I know Big Tex, your dad, who I met at a concert once, which also sounds like super random. He took you, backstage, all this kind of stuff, and meeting all these big time wrestlers when you're younger. But like from when you kind of got into it to now, maybe what are some of the biggest changes you've seen other than like so much nostalgia that remains with it?
Yeah, like as much as the nostalgia that remains with it, and we still have so many of those stars, and there's so much like respect on those stars that have helped to pave the way for this newer generation that's coming through. But there have been so many amazing stars to break out that we can kind of hinge the future on. And that's been really exciting to see. I also just think that the sport and the industry of professional wrestling has changed drastically in the time that I've been in it. And, I feel like from the time that I started to where we're at now was really the beginning of a few things. You started to see different types of professional wrestlers. It wasn't always just about being the like big hulking guy and the tanner and like in the like little trunks. Like the style of athlete and the body type has changed a lot. As well as like the style, it's more like finesse style that we're seeing a lot more of. And also on the women's side of thing, I feel like when I started was really at the beginning of when we started to see like a women's evolution and the style that we have become now accustomed to seeing from the women wrestlers, of having these like hard hitting matches, having longer matches, having street fights, having like all these different like stipulation style matches, just having more time on TV and being able to tell better stories. I think that's something that we've really been able to see a lot more for the women. But yeah, it's been a really cool time to get in when I started, as you're seeing all of these changes really start to happen, a little bit of like a changing of the guard of what we were more used to in our like nostalgia days to what we have now. It's pretty awesome.
I love hearing that. I love hearing like that. The depth that you kind of get from these people who are fighting, especially with the women, because I found with doing PFL like an MMA, obviously different. There was just the stories which are so fantastic from some of these people, and I mean I also know that that's very different from like the fantasy world that you do. I don't know, wrestling really pretzels my mind.
It's not though, because sometimes the stories really do write themselves. Like, yeah, there is sometimes like you can create some different stories and whatnot, but a lot of times, as we know in professional wrestling, the best storylines and the best angles and stuff come from real life things. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing that you're going to see in MMA and PFL and whatnot. And, I don't know the inside of really how the sausage is made over there, of how much of that stuff really gets blown up to make their stories and stuff be a little bit more intriguing as well. But when you have that built-in stuff, like I used to do a radio show with Misha Tate, and she would, kind of explain so much of the stuff that went on in the women's division in UFC. And she was such a pioneer for women's MMA. But yeah, I mean, ours is really similar to that too. It's like that in any sport. I mean, you want to watch any sport and there's a little bit of a hook, or there's some kind of an angle, or there's history between the teams or between the players. Players that have changed teams and gone into play. We have that with us too, with like different promotions and people that have so much history between them. So a lot of our stuff really hinges on a lot of that as well too. It's not just like writers in a room imagining some like crazy scenario. Sometimes it is that, but it's not always that.
Right. Yes. The natural rivalries, the natural sense of story is so important. And when we look at stories, you grew up in Toronto. So you grew up as a Leafs fan?
Yeah.
Okay. So describe to me what your like Leaf fandom was like and is like now.
So when I was a kid, I played ringette growing up. That was my sport. I loved it. I played it till I was like in my 20s. Like I loved being on the ice. I loved being at the arena, but I didn't really start playing hockey until I was more in my adult years. Cause you start like weeding out of playing ringette, and playing hockey was a lot more. It was a lot easier to have access to, especially as I was like moving around and stuff. So I played hockey a little bit, but anyways, my stick handling skills are less than desirable, but I can skate really well. But anyways, when I was a kid, I don't know if this was me like sort of knowing early on that I wanted to get into sports, but I remember being a kid and watching the Leafs and feeling like I couldn't just know who the starting lineup was. Like I wanted to know the depth of the bench. I wanted to make sure that I knew who each player was. I wanted to know their stats. Like, so I would make all these little like notes and like a little like journal thing so that I didn't want to like have surface level conversations about the sport. I knew that I wanted to be able to like talk about the team in depth and to just like dig in deep like that. So I feel like that was a kind of an inkling to what my work ethic kind of looks like, but also just like wanted to be able to put in the work to be able to have these cool conversations and really know the team.
Wow. Okay. So are you talking about like when you were like a child or when you were like an adult, a child?
No, when I was a child. Like I was probably like maybe like 10 or 12, like something like that. Yeah.
What? That's insane. That's amazing. Like you should have been like fast tracked to like Harvard or something.
I don't know. I feel like I was just like around hockey so much. And I knew that I wanted to really be able to like carry the conversation or lead the conversation and like know so much about the team. So yeah, I had a little notebook with all the information.
Just like a mini adult, wondering how she's going to carry this conversation. Meanwhile, like, I don't know, I'm rollerblading outside going to go get a slushie or something like that at that age. Like,
social anxieties. I got to write down the steps so I know what I can talk about.
Dude, I used to do, as an aside, when I played, it's funny it's funny that connects to your story with hockey. But when I played hockey, I was always so nervous with the boys on my team once, like, we got older that I would, God, why am I telling this story? So embarrassing. I used to write down what I would say to them, like ahead of time. Like, so when we'd be on the bench, like waiting for our shifts, I could be like, remembering being like, hello, Andrew. Like, what do you think about blah, blah, blah? Like, that's definitely, social anxiety manifesting itself. Cue cards to how to talk to boys that you play hockey with.
I love it.
I
feel like that's such an indicator for like what we ended up going on to do, whether it's like just being like prepared for like, okay, well, if there's a lull in this conversation, who's gonna pick it up? This girl. I got it.
We've got our notes ready for conversations. Psychopaths. Yep, total psychopaths. Oh gosh, I love that idea.
Googling of you before the game, and I understand. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, your favorite subject is chemistry. That's amazing, and you like to play dodgeball. No, okay. All right, moving on. When you were a kid, though, who was your favorite Leaf?
So I always loved Ty Domi and Darcy Tucker, of course. They were like the shit disturbers, fun to watch, good players, but like ready to throw down and get into a scrap at any given moment. Of course, I was like big into like the Matt Sundin era. Cujo. I used to have like a big signed Cujo stick in my room for like years.
I love that.
But yeah, that was like obviously, you know, like a Doug Gilmore. That was like really those were my guys.
Yeah, that's exactly the same as me as well. So I think that those guys define a lot of our generation's Leaf fandom, and just even trying to explain to people like, yeah, Darcy Tucker and Ty Domi had their own je ne sais quoi. They're like small guys, but they were just like, they're like small dogs that aren't afraid to back down from the big guys.
Yes.
And they were such a heartbeat of Toronto. It was fantastic.
They
okay,
really
so
were.
how much have you followed since, like, of hockey? Like, how into the Leafs have you been? You can be honest here.
So I have to be honest because I could not bullshit you, but when I left Toronto, I must preface this by saying that watching the World Juniors was a huge thing in my house. Watching the World Juniors with my dad every year, starting on Boxing Day, like we would sit down and get ready to watch World Juniors. So that was a big thing for us. And the year when we had like Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane, and we were like watching all these guys play, and then they went on to play for the Blackhawks. I kind of jumped on the Blackhawks bandwagon for a couple of years. So I was very into that. And then when I moved to Las Vegas, I was like clinging to my Canadian identity, and it was really hard to find that in the desert. So when the Golden Knights came through, I was like, okay, oh my God, we've got hockey and I can buy tickets. What? You have to be grandfathered into getting tickets to leave. So it's insane. So the fact that we could just like go down to games and enjoy ourselves, and it wasn't, this whole ordeal. So, and they were really good. So it was a ton of fun to watch the Golden Knights. And now that I'm back and now that I'm living in Cincinnati, I feel a little bit lost again. And I'm like, well, what do I do? So I took my daughter to a Cincinnati Cyclones game the other night of the ECHL. And it's my first time going. So since we've moved here, I'm like, we have to go to a Cyclones game. I'm dying to go. I've not been to a game of like that caliber in a long time. It was a ton of fun. My daughter was really, really into it. I bought her mini sticks after, and she seemed very natural holding a hockey stick. It brought me immense joy. I was very proud. So now I'm sort of like, I don't know where I belong in the hockey world right now. I don't really know what my team is. I feel like I'm a fence sitter between the Leafs and the Golden Knights right now.
Sorry, you cut out for me, but between the Leafs and who?
And Golden Knights.
Oh, yeah. But that makes sense if you live there and you're there when they came to fruition. Like, you can have your hearts, your genes, like where your hometown is Toronto Maple Leafs, and then you travel all around. But I love that you went to the Cyclones game, and like, what did your daughter think of it?
So I wasn't sure, like, even when we went, I'm like, okay, even if we just stay for a period, hell, if she just wants to watch a Zamboni come out, let's just go check it out.
She's also really young, everyone. Yeah, she's like she's like a
she's
child.
only 3.5.
Yeah.
She's little. But I also feel like this is so much of like me being a parent projecting my shit onto my daughter, where I'm like, well, I just want to let you know that when I was 4, I was out there and I was skating and I was like doing shit. So we're gonna go to the ring.
Falling behind, honey. Just so you know.
So I've like got her skates. I got her all of her gear. She's like ready to go, but has not like actually skated yet. But I used to love, like, my dad would take me to Oshawa Generals games and stuff all the time when I was a kid. We'd go watch the Sudbury Wolves. Like, that was another like awesome experience I used to have with my dad. Taking her to the game, she was really into it. She loved watching how fast they were. There was one fight. She was into that. At the beginning, though, there was like flames going off, and like the mascot was like skating through them. I think that kind of scared her a little bit, but overall,
that feels like it would scare a lot of people too.
Really liked it. Yeah.
Flammable mascot costume going through flames would be, jarring to anyone. Okay, so does she watch wrestling?
She does. So usually if So we do Wednesday is Dynamite. John and I are both out doing that, and she probably won't catch much of that. But then on Saturdays, if I'm home with her and John's at Collision, I'll put on some of that for her to watch. And I really like, not to exploit my child, but I really want to do like an alternative commentary from her over the matches.
Yes.
Some of the stuff she says and her observations of it is so funny. Like whether she's watching John or like even like,
what would you say? Maybe
she'll like be watching it. You should be watching a match and go, well, why? How come he's hitting him? Why does he not like him? Is he mean? Is that guy the bad guy? Like she's like trying to figure out who all the people are, who their characters are, if they're like hurt. She's also very into the face paint. She was we had a show in Cincinnati just recently, and Dustin Rhodes was there, who's like one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, but he was like tried to scare her at first, which worked. But then she came around to him and was like super into him. She kept talking about him when we got home. So yeah, she likes the pageantry of it.
I love that. I can't wait to see how your daughter like grows up and turns out, because this is amazing stuff for a kid to be able to be exposed to. And I think it,
They're either gonna lean into it or like completely repel it. So who knows?
Oh, she's gonna be lean into it for sure. I mean, if she's already enjoying like the face paint and like asking questions about the dynamics of the characters and whatnot, like, it actually probably makes you like think more about it too on a different level. Like you're like trying to explain stuff when a 3.5-year-old's asking you questions.
You know, in any like art form too, it's like that's what that's the audience, right? She's just asking these like very simple questions about, well, who, what, when, where, why. And it like takes you back to like the simplicity of what some of those things are. But yeah, she'll see the guys like take like big bumps on the mat too. And she's like, that is a really nice trampoline. I go, baby, that is not a trampoline. Trampoline, which like deeply offends my husband. He's like, trust me, it's not a trampoline.
I love that. It's like, no, you're wrong on that. 3.5-year-old daughter watching wrestling.
You're wrong, and my body hurt. Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's amazing. Okay, well, so right funny. Now you are obviously still, if you were born in Toronto and you know what it's like to try to get Leafs tickets when you were a kid, which was 0.0 chance, and they were so expensive. The fact that you went to Sudbury Wolves game is like, way up by the big nickel, obviously. We all know that.
Yeah.
And so then like now seeing the Leafs, I have felt a lot of heartbreak in the last couple of years, but this year, as one of our analysts, Pierre McGuire, says, like, excuse me, feels like it's something a little bit different. Probably because they've had a bit better goaltending, bit better defense, and whatever. I don't know what. We've got our hopes back up again. What do you feel maybe like at a potential Leafs winning the Stanley Cup? Or are you just still in the gray area of no?
So I'm in the gray area because I have felt that heartache a lot. I have been there. I've lived through it. I've felt it. But on the flip side of that, I will say I did happen to be in town when the Raptors won the NBA championship. And to feel what that was like to be in the city for the Raptors to win, and the city going crazy, people jumping on taxis. You couldn't walk anywhere. You couldn't move anywhere. Like, it was utter insanity. I cannot even imagine what Toronto would turn into if the Leafs won the Stanley Cup. Like, it would be chaos.
I know. It's so true. I mean, even game one of that series with the Raptors in Golden State, people were hanging off of street signs. I remember being there. And it was just like, it's just game one. But it was like, they'd never win game one in a series, and everyone had written them off. So everyone was all jazzed. But yeah, I think like the city, regardless if the Leafs were in the Stanley Cup final, they would, if they won or if they lost, they would burn the city down. Like literally.
A win. Yeah, agreed. Yes.
Yeah, we just gotta, it would just be complete chaos. And how much those tickets would be insane.
Oh my God. Whew. It would be like Taylor Swift era's level of like, you got to mortgage your house.
Yeah, that's I love how it's like, yeah, it would be up for Taylor Swift Eras tour. Like I love that. That's a perfect comparison in ticket price, but also such a wild thing to say. Like, but yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, I'd say this year there's a lot of good feeling like around it, but I just think we've been burned so many times with like hope that it's really hard to let yourself feel excited.
Let your guard down. Yeah, it's hard to let your guard down. You've got to be prepared for anything and everything, but also like enjoy the change, enjoy the victories. We don't have to be like the forever scorned, like out of a bad relationship. We can open ourselves up to this new love that the Leafs are giving us and sort of see where it goes, but just tread a little lightly.
Yeah. So how would you explain like Leafs fans to wrestling people if they were like, well, what is this hockey thing, you Canadian?
I think there's such a similarity because I feel like, so I always say like professional wrestling is like such a thread of Americana. It is like everyone has some kind of a story or relationship to professional wrestling, whether it's they used to watch or like I've heard from so many people of like my grandparents were immigrants and they moved to the United States or Canada and that was the only thing that they could watch. They didn't have to understand the language to appreciate it. So many people have all these amazing memories attached to professional wrestling. And I feel like it's a similar thing with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, when you think, at least we have like more teams across Canada. So it's not just about the Leafs, but I think we all just grew up watching hockey, being around hockey, having a love for it, whether it's, for me, it was watching with my dad and spending time at the rinks. And like, that's where my attachment to hockey comes from. I feel like it's a similar kind of thing. But there's also like the diehard fandom too. I mean, you want to see the guys in like the face paint and people making their signs. Like there is such a comparison between pro wrestling fans and Leafs fans, and it's the diehardness. And you know, even for the Leafs, you have an up season, everyone's into it. Even when you have a down season, you're still watching, you're still going to be talking a little shit and enjoying it for what it's worth. But you're there for the roller coaster, the ups and downs, and that's a big thing with pro wrestling. You got to ride the wave.
Right. It has a chokehold on you regardless of whatever happens. Literally, for wrestling. Okay, so I asked you beforehand, just gave Renee a little heads up, but I wanted to ask her to cast some Leafs players as wrestlers. And correct me if I'm wrong on this. So in the last couple of years, I felt like Austin Matthews has been a bit of a heel, mostly because he's like kind of quiet. Yes. He doesn't really seem like an overtly super excited, happy guy towards other people. Like other teams hate him.
Doesn't help either. The mustache puts him in heel territory for sure.
Yeah, and he's on the Leafs, and everyone outside of Toronto hates the Leafs. So I felt like Austin Matthews is a bit of a heel, but like, who would you maybe cast him as?
Ooh, who would I cast him as? Gosh, I'm trying to think of like who's like a good, quiet, sort of stoic heel.
If that even exists.
It's funny. Well, I mean, it does. I'm just like, gosh, let me come back to who I would cast him as. One that I got like hung up on though when I was like scrolling roster too is we were talking about Ty Domi, but to have Ty Domi and Max Domi and to have like this sort of relationship, it reminds me a lot of what we could get with like Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio. But I think like the roles reversed because I do think that Ty Domi was still like, I think that Ty could have been more of the heel and then we could see Max as more of like the baby face.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like they are, right?
Yeah. Like you can't, I feel like it's so easy to, it's very easy to root for Max. I think for Ty, I mean, Ty's like a bit of a tweener too, because you know, he could kind of play either side.
Do you think he could play babyface? Ty?
I think he could. Yeah. I think he absolutely could. Yes. I think he's so charming, first of all. I think he can be very charming. I think he can turn it on. The fans want to love him. Even when he's being a dick, the fans still want to love him. So I think it could be very easy to put him in babyface territory.
Okay.
Sorry, heel territory.
Okay. Yes. He's definitely heel. Like they loved a heel of him. Remember, like him just whatever going after the fans in the stands. Okay. Not fans, opposing team. Who else do you have?
He's like friends with like Ric Flair. Okay, so I thought maybe Adam Copeland and Doug Gilmour could be a good swap out.
You're going to have to just keep saying these things because I apologize. I'm not a...
Okay.
All right. I'll be like, yes,
no worries.
I agree.
All good. Yeah, I thought Doug Gilmour and Adam Copeland would be like a good swap. Both like grizzled, tried, true, tested. We know what we're going to get from them. We believe in these guys. We're so familiar with these guys. So I feel like those two could be a really good
killer.
swap.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Who would be like a good like Darcy Tucker?
Like a bad guy that also has like a flow that's sort of, he's kind of got all the ladies like him. My mom had a crush on Darcy Tucker.
You know what? Maybe like Hangman Adam Page could be Darcy Tucker. He's Hangman Adam Page. He's got this whole like cowboy thing going on, crazy like curly flow, and he can kind of go between being a good guy and a bad guy. He's in bad guy mode right now. But yeah, I think that one could work out.
Okay. I love that. All right. Well, yeah. I could keep going on this, but I realize I'm completely useless in this situation. I'm just like, yep, that's okay. Good. That's good. I've got to know more of my characters because, as I've mentioned to you before, until I was humbled by the PFL, I thought I could be a wrestler. And then I realized how difficult it actually was when Tyron Woodley helped me learn how to fight. And let's just say I don't think I got it.
It's okay. It's okay. Not everyone's meant to be a fighter. I'm not meant to be a fighter either.
Yeah, I really thought I was meant to be a fighter, and I am not. So, kids, just you gotta try. Try and
you gotta try. Now you know.
And you tried and you failed, and the lesson here is to never try at all. Okay, predictions for you. What do you think the Leafs right now? They're rocking and rolling. They're in a good position. They're kind of up and down because of injuries. But if you were to just guess, like let's just say how do you think the season's going to end?
Gosh, I don't feel like they're going to make it to the finals of the Cup, but I would like to see them go a little deeper into the playoff run. Okay. Again, toying with the emotions. We'll all be very invested. I think just getting past the first round would be ecstatic.
You think that? So I think it's like second round has to be the next. Got past the first round. Yes. Second round. Second round is good enough. Like it's almost like every year we just jump a little higher and like hit a little bit higher.
Yeah, give us just a little bit more. Yes.
Not all the way. You don't have to go all the way.
No. I would love it if you did. But I'm not gonna hold my breath on that one and see where we end up. But I do see a little bit more depth in the playoff run this year.
I can see it too. Somehow I can see them winning it and it just being like absolute mayhem. And I'm going to spend all my life savings on going to those games and they're going to lose.
I will be flying in for that as well. So I will see you there. We'll meet at the booth. We'll tear it up. It'll be a great time.
We'll go to Two Cats, and I think that still exists in Toronto, and we'll tear up the dance floor there, or whatever it is. I don't know. Toronto businesses, whatever establishments change over like no other.
Know. It's a trip. Every time I go there, I'm like, how? Like even just driving along the QEW and like along like Lakeshore, it is so nuts to me that I'm like, where did all these shadows come from of all these gigantic buildings? It's nuts.
And you were also driving, like you weren't just stuck in traffic or just like I learned this summer it's not built correctly.
No.
The traffic flow is not.
mess. Yeah, it's not good.
That's
you better just walk everywhere, get a bike.
Walk. Yeah, don't take the subway. That's one thing I'll say. As I learned, the New York subway is better than Toronto subway in terms of weirdos, which is surprising.
Yeah, but more options. You got 2 lines in Toronto. Take it or leave it.
One or the other.
Yeah.
All right, Renee, I'll let you get going. Let us know where we can find you next.
Yeah, you guys can catch me on Dynamite on TBS, also streaming on Max. That is Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern with Dynamite for AEW. And all my social media handles are at Renee Paquette. And I can see you guys on there.
Okay, and one last question. With 4 Nations coming up, would you be more likely to be wearing a Canada jersey or a USA jersey?
Canada, 100%.
I know, same with me, obviously.
Yeah, I can't, of course.
I mean, come on. Yeah. There's no, sorry, everyone. Well, also, we're on a Canadian channel, I guess, right now. But Renee,
but still, I still like, I mean, even when the Lululemon put out the like Canada gear, I was like, I need all of this stuff. Like,
yeah, I bought it all as well. I just need the whole thing. It's it's like, we're both
patriotic,
Can-American.
I do feel like I get a little like homesick being away from Canada so much. So any like little things I can get like that, I'm like, okay, I still got it. I'm good.
Yeah. Okay, wait, one more question on that. Do you feel like when you're in the States, you're more Canadian, and then when you go to Canada, you're more American?
Yes, I think that's probably accurate. Because I feel, you know what, because I had to take like dialect classes like early on in my career moving to the US, I don't notice it when I'm here, but when I'm home, all of a sudden I'm like, hey y'all, how y'all doing? Like I just like have this like twang all of a sudden. It's like, whoa, calm down. But yeah, here I definitely hang my hat on being Canadian, and everybody else does that too. Everyone does that to you. You get very much so you become the Canadian girl. It's fine.
It feels like it's some kind of psychological thing too. I don't know. When I worked the Olympics this summer in Canada, I leaned into like being the American in like the office. Like it was so weird that I also did that. Whatever. But like the different person, and then like being here, they're like, Canada, like so many jokes obviously right now.
Of course. Yeah,
there's a lot of that.
Don't you like the cold?
It's like, no, just because I grew up there doesn't mean I like colds. Not like, woohoo, it's like, and you took dialect classes. Did they make you do that when you first came down here?
Yeah. When I first started at WWE, they made me take dialect classes. I had not done anything on camera for them at all. So it wasn't like they were like, she's got to lose that Canadian accent. I think it was just like a crutch, knee jerk kind of thing of like, we're filling out her visa work. Does she sound Canadian? So yeah, I would have to go into Manhattan like once a week and like just recite my vowels differently.
Oh my God. Yeah. Dude, that's amazing. I did not know you did that. I mean, I just had to learn through trial and error where I was at FS1 and doing like an update on like Albert Pujols. And I was like, we now return you to regularly scheduled programming already in progress.
Oh, those little things I still get hung up on, and even still typing out certain things on my phone. I'm like, that's right. Why is it saying it's not right? And then I'm like, got it. Okay.
I know. My producers at the time came out and they're like, good job on the news update, but what did you say at the end? I was like, progress? They're like, don't ever say that word again. Like,
yes, I know all those
progress.
Like, I've had so many little like hiccups like that. I can't like remember them off the top of my head right now, but yeah, that's a good example of one.
I remember. Yeah. Someone at CBC this summer wrote in about me saying, semifinals instead of semifinals, because apparently semifinals is American and semifinals is Canadian. And I was like, well, I think you might need to get a hobby. And then I started like saying it both ways because I was like,
semi. Yeah, just give everyone gets a turn, okay?
I'm gonna say it. Maybe I'll make it French, at the same time. Yeah. All right, Renee, thank you so much for joining us here on Toronto Sports Rush. Been a pleasure, and good luck with everything wrestling and beyond. And go Leafs, go!
Thanks, girl.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.